Welcome to the Past Lives Cafe. I am your host, Keone, an intuitive energy worker and acclaimed past life regressionist. Come with me as we journey through the spiral of time to forgotten places. I am so happy to have with me today Susan Bischak. She is a talented psychic medium, past life regressionist with a multitude of other abilities and talents. And we'll talk about some of those on today's podcast. She considers herself a crone in a good way. As a brief introduction to a very varied and wonderful history within the metaphysical world, she has become a Reiki master, an IET instructor, IGM acupressure adept, Touch for Health level 3, studied with an herbalist on her farm, facilitated past life regressions, practiced mediumship for many years, and she is also a certified nutritional consultant and thermographic imaging technician. She does biofield tuning and uses ceramic discs with microcrystals in them to focus the Earth's energy on a client for their healings. Wonderful. Along the way, she became an Order of Melchizedek priest and an interfaith minister through a 2-year seminary course. She has discovered from the start that her telepathic abilities allows her to join her clients in their past lives, which is especially helpful to bring understanding and clarity to their session. She is an author of Healing a Desperate Heart, a memoir about the value of forgiveness, and now leads discussion groups with a counselor on the subject of forgiveness as a selfish act. I will make sure to have that book link and all of her contact information in the show notes. But I am just so excited to dive in. I have been privy to a bit about Susan's spiritual journey as a very young child, and I would love for all of you to hear it as well. Susan, tell us about this amazing experience that you had with your grandmother and how she helped you recognize the amazing abilities you were born with.
It was a simple thing that she decided, why don't you stay for a week at my house? Like, okay. So my mother says, if your cousins that live next door, these are Italians, they try to live close together. Anyway, so they have to be next door. So they've always been my playmates. All my cousins are my playmates. It's wonderful. We're all around same ages. But anyway, they went off with their parents to do something. So I go, okay, what should I do? So I went back to my grandmother's house and she had laundry on the line. So for me, it's like a novelty, picking stuff off the line. So I put it in a basket, clothespans, whole thing, go in the house. I walk in the door, I go to the left. I walk like toward the kitchen and then off to the left, okay? And I'm folding all the stuff and I'm done. And then my mind's like, this is the key, because my mind is like, what should I do next? And then I get this thought, clean the steps going upstairs, which were right between where I was and my grandmother was, who happened to be sitting with her sister, a rare thing, because that sister doesn't drive. Someone had to bring her. All right, so they're together, the psychic sisters. I didn't know they were into the pantry to get the little dust broom and things. Like, yeah, I'll do this for grandma. She doesn't want to fall down the stairs, And so I got to the bottom of the stairs. I'm about to do it, and I could feel people behind me, which were those two. And I turn around and go, why are you there? And my grandmother goes, I've been watching you. You're different than your cousins. What does that mean? Never a word about it again. But she knew I could get messages telepathically, which is what, of course, I would say, that's like when you're a medium. I'm just putting that together right now. When you're a medium, you're receiving messages. If someone's mind is open, then they're ready to receive. And so she just picked the right moment that I could tell Susan to do something next, or I could try telepathy and see if she's got the gift. So she found out that I did. And she would counsel people in her apartment when they were in the Bronx, just talking to them. The words would just come to her to say that she's listening to them while she's listening up here for the message. And didn't charge. That was it. Go see Lizzie when you have a problem. So I figured that out on my own. Again, she didn't do anything because my parents probably wouldn't have been into it. None of her kids were interested in that stuff. And it was a no-no with the Catholic Church and the priest saying, don't do this. She didn't want to do it for me, or even my cousin Dorothy, who was living next door with her sister. Dorothy would wake up from her in her crib and yell across the hall to her parents, there's somebody in here, there's a man in here. And they'd say, oh, go to sleep, quiet. And she'd go, but there's a man in here. So she could see things. And we're very close because we're sharing this, that she wanted to develop it too. And it just came to her at a very young age. And me at 12, nothing really happened until my grandmother passed away. And about 6 months later, this is 1981, I wanted to know everything about everything. I wanted to know it now, as fast as possible. So right away, then it came into experience of past life regression, saying, this is so cool. I want to know more about this. And tarot cards, this lady Ginny was teaching me that. And mediumship, she connected me with this guy who's now actually, he's very close to where I live now, but did a long time with Mike. Mike was in the spiritualist church, Patterson. And he was teaching at his house in very, very simple ways. An American spiritualist, this is different than the more regimented British and Australian, where they want to emphasize the
validation.
Evidential mediumship is the thing. Yeah, I did go to Stansted for a week, which was fun. Really nice experience. Which Stansted, the Arthur Findlay College, is actually Hogwarts from all the books from Harry Potter. That's
really.
So I was in
Hogwarts
for a week. Why wouldn't I be there, right? Anyway.
Oh, my daughter is going to be so jealous when I tell her I talked to Hermione today.
I didn't learn to fly around, I will say, but it was a really cool old building. Really, really, very. So that's as far as the training was, just on and on. I just kept meeting different teachers and learning a little more and learning a little more. And whenever you're working with somebody, that's an experience. Whatever I'm doing, it's like I'm learning all the time.
What about your grandma's passing, do you think triggered your interest? Do you think that was her kind of chirping in your ear?
Yeah. And whenever
saying,
I'd
you
be
have a
in
gift
class,
here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd sit in a class with the beginners and they go right away, well, your grandmother's here. Like, of course she's here. She's always here. Yeah, she is so excited that I can do what she couldn't possibly do with her DNA. It just wasn't possible. So many restrictions. And even now, there's people like, I mentioned to somebody I trained in mediumship, and they're like, oh my God.
Or they held up the cross like you were the
just about. There was somebody, I went for a walk one day in a nearby neighborhood because I was getting ready to go up Mount Washington. So I wanted a little more hill than mine had. And she came up to me and I complimented her about her kids, looked so cute, just like her. And she goes, get out of my neighborhood. Don't come back. I'm like, oh, hello to you.
Wow.
Yeah, such a strong reaction. Like I'm the devil in disguise. This persists. It still persists out of ignorance. It's ignorance.
We could do an entire probably series on the impact of fear and fear mongering that a lot of traditional religion sowed for a whole slew of reasons about people like you and your grandmother. But I wondered, how did your grandmother satisfy her need to be cosmically connected and to help people while also being a Catholic? How did that blend? Because she needed to satisfy what she was here to do, what you're here to do. But yet she knew that was so restrictive.
She did. She just, again, I didn't hear it ever discussed. So
that's a
it
good
was
point.
a quiet thing. And I'm sure she could pick up on what's going on in someone's life. Like she kind of clued me in that I wasn't that happy at home. And she knows my father and the way he was. So that's why I was spending that week with her. She said, oh, just let Susan come here. She goes outside and gets rosy cheeks and she's happy playing with her cousins next door. And she's wanted me to be happy. It was nice of her to do that. But in that time period, she had the opportunity with her sister to see what was going on, that Susan's got the gift, but we'll have to see what she does with it. That sister Stella, though, later on was interesting. I was in my parents' backyard, had a belly full of twins. I'm just sitting there and we're chatting. And she goes, gee, what are you into, Susan? I go, oh, hypnosis. Oh, that's very deep, she goes. And then she gets quietly off to the side while I'm chatting with other guests there. And then she just comes up to me later, says, you're going to help a lot of people. And that's all she said. Oh, so I'm in the process. I still feel I'm just the very beginning to do that.
And you have so many modalities that have given you so many different perspectives that you're now able to blend. But of all of those, what was it about the past life portion that you found to be so attractive and helpful to people?
Well, first of all, that lady Jenny, my first experience with her giving me a past life, I was amazed at how clear it was watching a movie starring me in another body in another time. And it started that I wake up in a feather bed and I go, this is what a feather bed feels like. Okay. And kind of a layout of the little cottage that I was living in, a one room, everything, kind of thing. So I was kind of in this little side space just that they could put this feather bed. And it was so clear. Okay. She goes, what did you have for breakfast? Good question. A chicken leg and a chunk of bread. She goes, yeah, you'd have to eat anything that was left over from the night before. That had to be your breakfast. That makes sense. We're in medieval times. And she goes, well, who's in the house with you? I go, my parents are there. I'm like, who are they? And I tell people, look into their eyes. That's the soul. You're not sure. So I go, oh, that's my husband is my mom then. And my dad is my dad now. And so those are the two. And then I pictured myself carrying a basket down a windy street. And there was odd light coming in from the side. And I realized, oh, that's candlelight. That's why it's a little spot and a little spot and a little spot as I'm going down the street. So you would go to market like at dawn. So there I was. And then it went ahead to me later in life, in that day and age. And my dad still had that same mindset. I realized just recently, oh my gosh, he still has the medieval thing. All he ever expected of me and in that life was for my security, to get married, to be safe, and someone to care for me, protect me, and if I could, have children, and that would be it for the lifetime, and I should feel totally fulfilled. So when I realized that's all he wanted in this lifetime, he actually apologized when I was getting a reading soon after that. It's like, he's listening. He goes, I'm sorry, I didn't expect so much of you because I'm the one that went to college. I'm the one that wrote a book. I'm the one that kept studying and studying. And the others are very, very tactile with their jobs, my brothers, hands-on kind of people. And I was the one, into the academics. And I did go to college and I got a degree. But yeah. And so it's like, he's around, your parents are around, people are around that care about you. They're actually listening. So that's so funny. The next reading, which was like a week later, our dad's apologizing again. Okay, thank you, Dad.
Did you ask him why he did not grow with the times? like, Dad, what's up? My father is the same way, Susan. I was getting my master's degree, and he was asking my husband at the time if it was okay that I was spending our money for me to pursue my education. And I was working full time. I was like, what is it? But maybe this is the insight. Maybe some of these time periods, that way that they show love from that period of time is just part of an ingrainment in their soul.
You just kind of ticked into something. It's in my book. It's like growing up, like my grandmother knew I wasn't that happy. The Italians are exuberant. When I show up, I was like I was a celebrity. Oh, Susan's here. Oh, wow. And everybody else that came in the door, wow, these people came, hug. It was a big deal. And when you left, it took you like, you better give yourself at least half an hour to leave because there's so many people. And then contrast that to the Germans. How reserved, they don't show emotion. That is the epitome of control. That's what you do. You don't show all your emotions. Like, okay. So I thought there was something wrong with me. I didn't know if my dad loved me. You know, he was there and he was supporting the house, and I could see that as a little girl. And I didn't understand. So I had a low point in between boyfriends. I'm like, okay, I'm feeling sad. Let me call home. I told my mom, I'm not even sure. Do you love me? And she's, oh, of course I do. I said, well, anyway, I couldn't get that much from Dad. So it was a short conversation and hang up. And my father's sister had married a psychiatrist. So I'm not surprised. Half an hour later, there's a phone call, and it's from my aunt. And my aunt just made the point. She goes, it's not in our family. It was not what you would say that showed you cared. It's what did you do for them? And so I'm thinking about over the years, once I got to college and I needed a frame on a painting, you just do it. I was a commercial artist for 17 years. And I said, yeah, it would be nice to have one of those tables. He just made it. And I was getting married. So he made a hope chest. He just did these things for me because he cared. That's more like what the Germans were thinking. Because they wouldn't respect people that put on airs and that kind of thing. Because there was someone that married into the family was the count by title only. And he was basically penniless. So they thought he was a joke with the formalities he wanted to do. They called him Count Kiss the Hand. Assume. Like, oh, so funny. So
That's awesome.
I get it. My aunt was very special to me. That my father's sister, because she never had kids. So she was very nice. She treated me very special. And we had a nice relationship for years. I'm very glad about that. But yeah, I would hug her and tell her I love her. Yeah.
It's so interesting that you say that because, well, first of all, there's a book, right? The 5 love languages, or there's probably way more than that. But there's the being more demonstrative and expressive versus the showing, My son was always very clear to me, Mom, do you really want to know how to show me you love me? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I already know, son. He's like, well, let me make it clear. Money works. Money is my love language. It's so funny you bring that up. That German stoicism and the not putting on airs is something that I have heard all my life about other cultures who tend to be more demonstrative, and how that was ridiculous, and how being more flashy, or even, I remember my father even making fun of my sister and I almost out of embarrassment. But now I think I understand it, Susan. Yeah, I'm almost 60 years old, finally understanding my father. How does that happen? But he, out of embarrassment, he would say, why are you two so dressed up? This is just Thanksgiving or just Christmas, get together with family. We don't need to put on airs. And I never understood what that meant, because I thought dressing up showed that you wanted to be there, that you respected the event, that you cared enough. right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's an interesting, but count, kiss the hand. That's funny. Anyway, this episode is not about me. It's about you. I'm learning about my father while I'm talking to you about a past life. So when you were having that past life experience
Yeah.
with the regressionist, it sounds like you were experiencing it somatically, what it felt like to lay on a feather bed, which is not that comfortable. But you could feel the goose feathers kind of poking into you for the first time, or like that you
It didn't seem that way. It just seemed fluffy. Maybe I had less bird feathers. I don't know. But anyway, or there were smaller bird feathers because
maybe so.
But in the end of that life, the last scene was me being by a fire. I was married to some big oaf. It was awful. I'm rocking a cradle, so there is an infant there. And I remember being very, very depressed that this is it. There is no more to life. You will be married to this oaf until he dies or you die. And you do have a child, at least, to doubt on. And that was it. And I go, oh. So when I was 19, and I could tell my dad didn't expect anything of me except what was it to be a nurse or a secretary or teacher.
Right? All the
That's
traditionals, right?
Traditional, safe things for women to do. When I found that out, I was like stomping my feet. No, I got more things I want to do.
You're like that oaf. I don't want to be stuck doing this. Wow. So, yeah, you had a literal remembrance of a past life experience where the traditional roles followed you into this world or this.
Yeah, and it wasn't until recently I realized, like, wait a minute. He's the same as he was in medieval days. He thinks the same about women. Exactly the same. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that's where it came from. I go, wow, this is so real. Yes. So now I finally connected the dots. Yeah.
Just amazing to me and so important to hear for anybody who is thinking of doing regressions, how important it is to have an actual regression done yourself, whether it's through meditation or through someone who's actually leading it, because you're aware of the experiences of being in that life and what it feels like to be in a world that you may not necessarily recognize right away, yet that seems familiar, and how to be led through that lifetime. For someone who is on, or anyone actually, but especially for someone who is interested in developing their spiritual connections with all that is, to have a past life regression, at least one. And why do you think that's so important?
Hopefully that person would have a very meaningful one, because not everybody can see anything. There are people that just tell me my past life because I'm laying here and I can't see anything. And there are people that just are not visual. So I had one that I said, okay, so you want us to know how you knew your husband in another life. So we went through a few of them, but each time I picked one, I said, but does that make sense to you? And that, yes. And each time I would put forth that life, she would say, yes, that makes sense. So that we're not wasting our time. Yeah, it made sense. That's like her husband. And then what is he doing now was the final question. Oh, okay. I didn't have that question before. So we got all her questions answered, but she was unable to be regressed. And there are people like that. But I'd rather people experience it and be able to. That's where the learning is. That's when you find how real it is. So I'm just saying some people can't experience it. They can try. They should try, absolutely, to have a regression. And there's two different ways to do it. The school you went to didn't exist. Basically, the method I do is kind of like Brian Weiss.
Mm-hmm.
I have the progressive relaxation, and then you go walking through the woods, and I have them paying attention to me and taking in all the tactile things, the sights, the sounds, the feelings, and then we go to a cabin and go from there and come back. But there's another one, Dr. Roger Wolger. I studied with one of his students, And that's going into the emotions. And he did something at a college near me, and it was a really great example of how immediate a person can get into a past life, just going with the emotion. Not every regressionist knows to do that if they're stuck and they're not visual. Let's just go to, what does that feel like? What are you feeling now? And go with it. Yeah. So that's nice to know. It just spontaneously happened when I was with someone. She just couldn't picture a picture. And all she goes, well, it feels like, yes, that's what you should be doing. So, yeah, just wanted to point that out. There's not just one way. And Brian Weiss is teaching all over Omega and everything. There was another person that had a different way, and it was very valid. And so I studied that for a whole weekend. It was pretty wild. Because all the emotions would come up, and there were two guys in the group, and they said, oh, they were not complete in their session that day unless they had this like wild screaming fit of being tortured or something. Like, okay. And we were in a cottage next to this big house where the lady was putting us up, and she goes, I was a little concerned.
This is metaphysical, not medieval torture session.
It was, wow.
Oh,
meanwhile, the house was haunted. Two people came to breakfast and said, did you see those Minutemen walking through your room? I go, yeah. They...
Oh my gosh, that sounds like an amazing experience, Susan.
It was a fun weekend. Yes.
I have noticed that the people that I have regressed, whether I was using QHHT, which, as you know, is very methodically laid out, very specific script, very specific process, or using other modalities, that regardless of the often painful, often very traumatic experiences they have versus what Dolores Cannon calls the picking potato type of lives, that in most cases, I think in all cases that I've experienced with my clients, they've felt unburdened for whatever reason, that there was something, even in what seems to be the most mundane life, that they've just needed to see and to know for whatever reason. Why do you think that is? What is it about our psyche that even the mundane needs to find a thread? It answers something within us.
It's just, they want some clarity. If you're going to regress, you're looking for some kind of clarity that you can't get any other way in a conscious mind. You need to let your mind relax and take you somewhere else. People are looking, the questions are there. And this is one way to get the answers. And they realized it wasn't going to be helping talking to a psychiatrist or psychologist in this instance of what they're looking for. That wasn't going to happen in talk therapy. So they needed to explore something else. So you're lucky the person shows up and really wants to know.
What do you make of the past lives where someone is seeing, feeling, picking up on concepts that seem... I just had this discussion 2 days ago with a client where things seem more fantastical or magical. I've had one client that saw her current husband as, in the past, a unicorn.
I haven't had any of those. I haven't. And that's interesting.
Yeah, I wondered
go back
your thoughts
and be
on that.
Different. Because, well, as Dolores Cannon had people going back to being on other planets.
I've had that too. And I've just treated every single experience, number one, as valid, obviously, because they're seeing what they need to see. I just had this discussion with some folks who were questioning, well, do you think someone seeing a unicorn is truly seeing a past life? Because do unicorns exist? And I said, who am I to say they didn't? I don't know every prehistoric medieval animal that ever existed or didn't. I just tend to treat everything as if it's happening for a reason and just move them through what they need to see.
Yeah, it's being presented in a way that only they need to have the experience. It's like in mediumship. It's not me. It's about them. I can say the most ridiculous things. And I learned early on, they keep bugging you like at least 3 times to say something. Say it already. And then they'll go, oh, yeah, that's the thing. Thank you for saying that. That's what I needed to hear for validity and whatever. That evidence. And so that's the same kind of thing. It's everybody's got their own way to be connected to, and you're not totally in the driver's seat. You're with them. And especially me, because I can see when they get where they're going. I don't choose where they're going. They go there, and I join them and then do my best with the telepathy to pick up what I can. And I can get a lot of details sometimes. The clearer it is to them, the more they can tune in. It's more for me to hang on to and perceive myself, and sometimes more than they. That's the telepathy part is helpful, because that's really where that's coming from. The idea of having visuals in your mind to work with, that's so very much the base of mediumship. So this all blended together, once when I needed to get answers with somebody.
Because with some people, you and I were talking before we recorded, that you're able to help them decipher what they're seeing or help lead them along what they're seeing, because you're also receiving the information. How does that work?
Well, again, they're there. Like, all right, as the example I gave you, which was a nice, quick one. I usually go through about 3 different lifetimes with somebody if I can. So anyway, this one is a lady says, oh, I am in a 1-room schoolhouse. Went, okay. Anybody in there? No. Completely empty. Oh, and I let a little time pass, and it's nothing at all. Okay. I am seeing right in front of her a long wooden desk with 2 inkwells and 2 cute little boys there with curly hair. Right in front of her. And I go, okay, I have to try this. Let me see if I can send her my image. And just intent, and with my healing and other people healing, it's your intention is number one. So my intent is that she gets that image. And so I just, with intent, imagined it going over to her, and all she goes, oh, there's these 2 boys at a desk in front of me. And I know who they are. This is so-and-so and so. How cool. I go, yeah, I saw that. But she didn't freak out that I was able to send it to her. I don't think I made it clear that I sent it to her.
Oh, she didn't know that.
I'm not sure I actually explained, which is okay. She doesn't have to know. In her mind, oh, all of a sudden they appear. Great. Doesn't matter how.
I have to ask, how many times have you sent information and someone wasn't able to receive? Not that I need a quantitative answer, meaning, are there people who just, even when they're in that relaxed state, unable to receive even your telepathic thoughts or visuals?
Well, that one illustration is really the only one that very consciously I was sending to them, because I don't want to interfere with what they're supposed to be getting.
Right.
I could interfere with the communication happening while I'm putting in my input. So I'm trying to let it all happen on its own. It's disappointing when it's difficult for them to see anything. So we'll go to another life and another life. And that brings me to a very interesting one I'm just recalling. I like it when people come in and they have a focus. Like, what are we doing here today? What's the purpose of this? What's your goal? What do you want to get out of this? Is it about a relationship? Is it about phobias or whatever? So there was one lady that came in that was recommended by the lady that owns the shop. And she said, oh, so-and-so, she knows a lot of people. She's a good one. So she comes in and I said, what's the focus? I don't have a focus. Okay. So what are we working with? So free for all here, right? I try to go through 3. So it was the first 2. I mean, I could have yawned. It was so boring. There was nothing there. And then we get to the 3rd. Where are you now? Then I start tuning in. Okay, so I'll just say what I'm seeing. She's in a desert environment. She said her job was that she built houses. And I know it's the kind you'd find adobe-like or something in a desert. I'm thinking she's in the Mideast. So we go ahead a little bit in time. And so it's the day that the family and him are going to get into the house for the first time together at night. And he is now taken in as the caretaker of the property, and he can live there with them. Okay, and what happened that night? Silence. We all blew up. That's pretty unexpected. So I go, okay. So then my mind is working, and I'm tuning into the scene a little closely. It's like, okay, we're in the floors are not solid floors like ours. She's in the Mideast where we know there's a lot of oil. There certainly could have been a natural gas that would come up through we know you won't smell it unless it's given a smell.
Right, the additive.
Otherwise, there's nothing to notice. So what happened, I told her, is somebody came in with an oil lamp and kaboom, because the house was full of that gas. And she goes, oh my gosh, yes, what's the matter? I was going to be late because in my kitchen, I smelled the gas. I was going to call the utility company.
I shouldn't be laughing at an explosion, but I love the synchronicity.
It was like, I got the answer, but the icing on the cake was her saying, I smelled gas in my house before I came. That is total validity that I was 100% correct. Why they blew up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say also that she has some sort of insane fear of fires or extreme loud noises or fireworks or something like that, because I've had people who said, I'm scared to death of fire. I'm scared to death of water. I'm scared to death of not just regular little rowboats, but cruise lines, only cruise lines. So I'm thinking Titanic?
Yeah.
Type thing. Isn't that strange? Because I would think you'd be safer on that than a little dinghy that gets stuck in a storm of some sort.
Yeah, I was in a class that I was reading somebody, and Omega has some nice classes. And all of a sudden I go, Titanic? She goes, oh my gosh, why did you? Just like, I was told I was on the Titanic. So you mentioned Titanic. So that's the only person that had any connection with Titanic. But she said she was told that she had been on it. So phobias, one of the reasons people show up. And another good one to illustrate, I get a call from a friend. She goes, I got one for you, Susan. And I go, okay, what's going on? I was doing a facial on this lady, and then she started freaking out. And we had to stop. And she said she doesn't know why she was having an extreme anxiety attack. And I said, okay. And so made an appointment with the lady, see me actually the next day at this salon. I told her the whole thing, relaxed and progression that I do. She went right exactly to an incident. And I understand because what was it that ticked it off from the hair?
What was the trigger?
Getting the face done.
Right.
Well, if you're seeing me, there's a slant in the ceiling behind me.
Yes, I see it.
Okay. Now, I know the room she was doing the facial in. It's narrow. It had weird angles in it and almost claustrophobic. That's what got to her. This weird, slanted, narrow room she was in. That touched it off. So what I could see, and she didn't give me the details, I'm able to get them fine. It's more interesting to me to get all the details. She's in Mongolia. She said, the enemy is approaching. Everyone else has left except me. I'm gathering papers, and I stayed too long. So they came in. And so I was picturing her. The claustrophobia was them literally pressing up against her. And she knew whether she helped them with information or not, she'd be dead in about 5 minutes.
Yep.
It was great to work with her. No wasting time, just one incident. So when she came out of it, I said, so now I have to teach you how not to have anxiety attacks. And she was very appreciative. Okay, so that was her homework. But that leads into a question of, did I ever have a spontaneous past life reaction? And have you ever had that? Something just ticked it off and there you are getting the experience?
You said something about some people are not able to receive visuals, but they can absolutely feel emotions.
Yeah.
I have had that happen. So I know that I was sitting in a movie theater, and for whatever reason, this specific movie scene took me somewhere where I relived a sense of feelings, but probably because I was in the movies and there was just too much sensual stimulation.
Stimuli.
Yeah, stimuli, that I was unable to really push those things away and focus on what exactly I was feeling and what it related to. But it blew me away. And I have heard stories, especially from clients that have come to me, where that's often the reason they're coming for a regression, because they want to investigate these spontaneous experiences. What have you seen?
Well, this one is a really dramatic one. So it sent me into at least a year of getting anxiety attacks, which is when I had to teach myself not to have them. When I got good and angry at myself for allowing my thoughts to control my body and get me into that uncomfortable state that I was in. This is debilitating. So it was simply, before the kids came, we have these couples, we get together, we go up to Killington or something and go skiing. So we all rented a condo and we're all settling in for the night. And there's a few couples and this guy, Dan is there with his wife and Pete is there with his girlfriend. Jay has no girlfriend. He just slept on the couch. I don't know. And Pete and Kim grabbed the bedroom with the bathroom attached. I said, okay, fine. First dibs, you got it. So I'm just getting ready to settle in for the evening and I'm talking to Kim, Pete's girlfriend. And all of a sudden, there was an amazing, horrible foreboding of like absolute dark evil. And I got the words in my head, they're all here, with that horrible foreboding. And I kind of understood it. It was Pete and Dan and Jay. Something from a past life. Horrific what they did to me. And so I started to get ill. You know when you're going to be ill all night? I was ill all night. So I told Kim, I said, you and Pete have to get out of that bedroom because I'm going to need that so that others share the other bathroom. And they didn't ask anymore. And I was literally sleepless all night, purging. And then from then on, anytime I was around Pete, and then we went to a comedy club once, and I'm laughing hysterically at the guy's saying, and then I just look over, and Dan is staring at me. It was so creepy. And there was something, again, Pete must have been the ringleader. It was definitely a sexual thing, an attack. And I had a feeling that they didn't want anybody to know. I think they might have just dismembered me to make it hard to find that evidence of Susan just disappeared. And that's how awful I think it was. It was so physical in a reaction. And just those three words, they're all here.
They're all here. When you knew you were going to be around one or both of them, how did you say, that was in the past, that was a terrible thing that happened, I cannot continue, like you said, to allow these things to take control of my body. I have to continue to live?
Well, there are a couple times we tried to go out with Pete and Kim, and that did not work. I just had to say, I'm sorry, I got to go home. And at one point, we're going to see the Rolling Stones.
Oh, good band.
Right? Concert. And I don't know where we were exactly, Giant Stadium or something, but we were on like a main floor standing in front of the stage. What could be better? And Pete is behind me. And I'm going, just remember, why did you come? You're here to have a good time. You're here. Look at what's going on. Kept distracting my thoughts constantly away from anything to do with the trigger. And got through it. I'm like, wow, okay. But then finally, I just one day went up to him and said, Pete, you literally make me sick. I cannot see you. I cannot see you. And he just took it in like, that's so strange, but I never did see him again. And and it just lingered. Stupid things would touch off this anxiety and start that process. And I'd go, no, I just tell everybody to stop distracting yourself. It's your thoughts that are telling your body what to do. It's just obeying what you're telling it to do by your thoughts. So I had to understand I had to get control of my thoughts. And then I would slow down my breathing, which would slow down my heart. And then I'd have control of everything else. And it's a struggle. And it took a while. All from that one.
Just that spontaneous past life knowingness.
Recall. Yeah. I'm glad that hasn't ever happened again. You do go through experience, I'm sure you'll agree, to understand that these things are real, that these things can come up for your clients.
I love the story that you shared about the conquistador, the curse, and the guy with pancreatitis, because those are the two questions I had left were essentially about the healing that you have witnessed for their seeing those past lives and then experiencing the relief from those symptoms. I'm presuming from that point forward.
I told them what I was seeing because it was just like you and me talking now. And it just spontaneously happened because I guess I was supposed to know and they wanted me to know. So I was just an offhand thing saying to the one with pancreatitis, I said, I just want to let you know that I just saw this, this really muscular arm come through with a dagger and stab you in your abdomen. And I said, well, it's just something that is contributing to why it's a problem there, I said. And then we went on to, other things. But I say with Eastern, it's not necessarily always what is traditional for Eastern medicine as to what organ and what emotion. With me, with the pancreas, I say, how did you lose the sweetness in life? What has happened? What's really a problem now? So I met up with a girl he knew before. They want to be an item. And he was traveling back and forth from Louisiana because he met her up here, but she lived down there now. But he also was a divorcee with 3 lovely girls, and he didn't want them to feel he was abandoning them. I said, you've got to take care of the emotional stuff. So he did. He talked to them. One even wanted to move down there and join them and all that kind of good stuff. Didn't work out. They were okay with that. Dad, just be happy. I just want you to be happy. And so he's living happily down in New Orleans with his girlfriend. And he had said at one point, I did have a beginning of an attack. And I remembered what you said, and I dealt with the emotions that were coming up. And it went away. Great lesson.
I love that. So it was, you were actually seeing that this area was being attacked, whether it was a construct or metaphorically, and you were able to lead him through this sweetness issue, which was his caring and feeling like he might be abandoning his children.
Yeah, but also I had the physical healing part for him was using those ceramics with the microcrystalline in it. He was laying down for this. The discs are on and under him, okay? And he starts arching his back. I said, damn, we could stop this right now. Are you in pain? Yeah, I'm really in pain, but I want it to do what it's supposed to do. I'm used to this. Okay, let's just go the whole way out. So, it stopped. And it always just knows when it's done, it just stops. Like someone hits a switch off. Your body's done utilizing this, and it chooses what to do with it. So anyway, he comes back a week later, just sauntering in, or just a checkup afterwards, sort of. And I go, well, how's it going? Fine. I only came back because he asked me to show up. I'm totally fine. And here, all they were going to give him in the ER was opiates. And he's a guy who's a recovering addict. So he says, I'm not taking them. And he walked out. He was working at a shop where my friend would get me some clients. And he ended up being one of them. Happy ending. And a big lesson to him. Watch your emotions where they take you and try to resolve things. Can.
I have just loved talking to you.
Anybody who is listening to this won't be able to even know how good you feel just to even see you. You just emanate joy and healing. There's just a way about your presence that feels good to even be with you electronically.
Well, thank you. You said something about people telling you in the future what you'll be doing. And someone was telling me, an astrologer, is like, you're going to walk in a room and people are just going to feel you.
Yep. They do. I do. And you're not even in my room.
And I guess that's why people feel safe with me and allowing me to say the most outrageous things. Like that one, I was helping physically with, we'll call him Bill, okay? For 3 years, he was telling his dentist there's something wrong in a part of his jaw. X-rays don't see inflammation. I learned that by doing thermography. They just don't. So the dentist kept passing it off until finally they realized it was a huge infection that actually made a hole into his sinuses. His blood is full of all sorts of horrible stuff and he thinks he's dying. Well, he went to see a specialist about blood work and all that. Was really great. And I got him to a holistic dentist who is phenomenal. He works spiritually and all that too, kinesiology, whatever. But he was the right guy and he would take on the task. And so he's getting better. So I said to Bill, I said, why don't you just come visit me and we'll have a chat and see what else I can come up with. And I won't charge you. So he comes in. And as I told you previously, all of a sudden, right behind him, I see this conquistador Spanish guy show up, just showing about the upper part of his body. He's showing me his helmet. I know he's Spanish. His story is that Bill hacked him in his spine with a battle axe and he was killed, and he was really unhappy about that for sure. So he probably was lingering because Bill was actually sick most of his life from mold and stuff. They had a rock in the basement of the house that was always damp. There's always mold and mildew. I got that whole story, and that the conquistador was just like, okay, the game is up. He's getting better and it's time to meet the leadings. So he did. And the happy ending is Bill met a girlfriend in the meantime, and they wanted me to marry them.
Oh my gosh, what a great ending.
But the other thing is, I had said to a friend of mine, I'm not sure if I'm going to be available. You could do the wedding. Can you just be on call for that, that day? And she goes, yeah, I'll do that. And I know she really could use the money. I ended up being around. So I said, no, just do it, Robin. I just asked Bill and his fiance, I said, can I come to the wedding? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you just helped everybody all the way around.
Everybody's happy.
I love that.
Yes, very happy endings. But who else would find this stuff? Right. And he's a historian. He's the kind of guy that has one of those old Model A's or whatever, those historic cars. As soon as we were done, he gets his phone and go, what did the helmet look like on the what am I battle axe?
He starts doing the evidentiary research to make sure, I want to know who this guy was. That's amazing.
It is. Somehow they accept that from me. You just never know what's going to come out of Susan.
I am going to be making an appointment with you because I have some things I need to talk about.
Well, I will say that I have felt after one of my first experiences with people, and I'm not trained like you're trained, I want to do a regression in person. Yes. Because one of the people I got was someone like she would go certain distance into a relationship and then sabotage it. Again and again and again. So what's this pattern? So what I saw, we went right into it. She's very fearful, and she was just the whole time she was fearful. I said, remember, you could come out of it. You're not deeply in there anytime. So I'll just boil it down to what was occurring was she and two others were runaway slaves. She said, they're coming. And I knew what was coming. There were 3 men on horseback with dogs.
Oh, God.
and they were coming to get them and punish them. They're all men, right? And she just couldn't trust them. She started freaking out. I knew it was coming. We're going to stop it right now. There's absolutely no reason for you to relive that. I understand how much fear you've got. We got an answer.
Yes.
That's all we need. We'll stop it here. And in other cases, I'll say, not that one, of course, but others, I said, just be an observer. Just disconnect from any of the physical. Just be an observer. What's going on?
Yep.
Just watch it like I'm watching it.
Right.
Just whatever you can learn. That's what you're trying to do. You want to learn. You don't have to experience it again.
I agree with you 100%, Susan. In almost all cases, especially with QHHT, because of the in-depth subconscious work, that modality is in person. If you wanted to do more light curiosity, this is the different lives I've seen and find threads. I feel a little more comfortable doing those online where we're not going into deep trauma type things.
Yeah.
Because I do have people who just say, was I a Zulu warrior? I'm dying to know. Or I feel like I was an Asian geisha.
Yeah, that's light.
Yeah, it's light. But I agree with you 3,000%. And I've also experienced some clients who have needed time to, God forbid, you lose connection online with someone. And they're in the midst of processing serious trauma. And, we've been trained to work with people as they're processing those emotions, or like you said, helping people understand how to reduce anxiety or de-escalate. Agreed.
Yeah. So you just bring them out of it. Again, we got an answer.
Absolutely.
And that was enough.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I am so thankful to talk with you.
I've enjoyed talking about it. I can't talk so much about it when people don't understand. It's nice to talk to another practitioner.
Thank you, my dear. I will be in touch very soon. Thank you so much.
This concludes this episode of Past Lives Cafe podcast with Susan Bischak. If you would like to contact Susan, this information will be in the show notes. If you or someone you know would like to discuss a past life experience on this podcast, please reach out to me at keone@quantumjourneygo.com. The enchantment continues on the Mystical Mermaid Lounge podcast that I co-host with Chloe Brown, a welcome space where we nourish the souls of all spiritual seekers. And remember, while we can't relive the past, together we can heal it. Thank you so much for listening. If you are interested in my services, visit me at www.quantumjourneygo.com or drop me a note at pastlivescafe.buzzsprout.com. Stay well and be present.